Hey, what is going on, all you amazing people out there? So, the time is finally here. My buddy Rob and we discuss whether Baldur's Gate 3 is worth the $60. The game has been out now for about a month, so I've been able to process and give enough time to what my own personal opinions are about this game. So, before we get started, click that subscribe button and hit that bell icon to get notifications whenever I come out with content. It helps me see, what you guys are enjoying, what you guys like, and also give your feedback too. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. So, let's get this video started. Hey, what's going on, Rob? So yeah, I kind of figured that today in today's video, have you ever played a Baldur's Gate game before?
Briefly.
Briefly? Okay.
Yeah.
So
it was a long, long time ago on a computer that probably would scare a lot of people.
right. Well, today I kind of want to persuade you into getting the new Baldur's Gate 3 game. I want to say it released on October 6th. If I'm looking at my calendar right, it got it
a month ago.
Yeah, it did get pushed back. Originally the release date was supposed to be in September, but like most games, it got pushed back. No hints to Cyberpunk or anything. But anyway.
Tyler, take it away.
Yeah.
Tell me what it's all about.
So, one of the things that I want to point out here right off the bat is that Baldur's Gate 2, the last game that that was released, it was released in the year 2000. So 20 years later, we're finally getting Baldur's Gate 3. A few things that I want to mention right off the bat is that it's a top-down tactical RPG. It is made by Larian Studios, so the Baldur's Gate 2 was made by EA, so a new title kind of picked up the Baldur's Gate franchise, and it's
anything else that I might know.
Yeah, actually that's exactly what I was about to mention. Larian Studios did the Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2 games.
Oh,
so,
yeah, I've heard of those games. Okay.
Yeah. So it's got kind of some similarities, which is great. And one of the other things that I want to mention, like before I even get started with the rest of the game, is that as of right now it is in early access. So what does that mean? Exactly. Yeah. So what does the early access mean? It means that as of right now, you can only play Act 1. So, like
how long is Act 1?
So me personally, looking into it, it's roughly about 12, anywhere between 12 to 18 hours of gameplay if you go through everything.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, and it is only Act 1. So, now kind of going into the stuff that you need to know, like about the game, about the character customization. You can play as 6 classes. You can play as a cleric, you can play as a fighter, you can play as a ranger, you can play as a rogue, you can play as a warlock, and you can play as a wizard. So 6 classes right off the bat. This is not including what is going to be added into the game next. They have said that there are going to be more classes that you can play as the game progresses.
Where's the bard? Is there a bard class?
There is going to be a bard class. There is going to be a barbarian class. So it's really taking the Dungeons and Dragons vibe. They have stated that within this game, it is a lot similar to the the version, the D&D 5.0 version. For those of you that have played like 3.5 and all that stuff, it's not like that in this Baldur's Gate game. So the rules and all that stuff are very similar to 5.0. As far
is that the latest version of D&D?
Yes, yeah, it is the latest version of D&D.
Okay.
Now, there are 9 different races that you can pick from within the game currently as well. You can play as a tiefling, you can play as a human, you can play as a dwarf, you can play as a halfling, an elf, a half-elf, a drow, and a Githyanki. So this...
So real quick to ask.
Yeah.
Is that that seems to be like a lot of classes and a lot of different types of races to kind of like mix and match. Is that the most the game has ever had, like Baldur's Gate in general?
So in the older Baldur's Gate video, yes. Well, as of right now, no, because there were certain subclasses that you can pick, and you can also pick in this game as well. But with what we're gonna see in the future, it's gonna be huge. You know,
they're gonna be updating it as time goes on. Okay.
Exactly. So, one of the coolest parts about the game that I came across when I was playing it, and it just seems really cool, is each individual race and class has their own specific dialogue. So, without kind of spoiling anything, one of the first things that you come across in the game is that you're on a ship, and within this ship there are these mind flayers, and if you choose a Githyanki, the amount of dialogue that opens up within this game is incredible. There's stuff right off the bat that you can do as a Githyanki while you're seeing these mind flayers, and the stuff that they do, because of your racial trait, you automatically get passes. So I think that is really, really cool, because it shows you that there's so much in depth within this game right off the bat, and to me it's really cool. You know, not only as a Baldur's Gate fan, but as a Dungeons and Dragons fan too. So it's there. It's
Sorry.
No, absolutely.
I think the loop behind these games is that you can definitely pick a character, pick a race, pick a class, and then go. And then you can spend hundreds upon hours in that story with that character and go through it, right? But I think the other pool that a lot of people I think like about these types of games is that you can pick a character, pick a class, pick a race, and then go. And then you can literally, every time you play, it's almost like a roguelite, you know, because there's so many different things that can happen. So I guess my question is, I guess that's the reason why I've never really gone into Baldur's Gate myself, is because seems like it's such a daunting and very immersive and very like take over your life experience.
Oh yeah.
Is there a way to play the game and just, you know, pick up and go? Like,
absolutely. And that's actually perfect, because that's one of the next things that I want to kind of lead in and talk about is, when you're building your character, when you're customizing it and all that stuff, it is very simple. There is maybe a 2 or a 3% chance that you can really like mess up your character's build. So, you know, if you want to play like a cleric that is a healer, when you're going through your stats in the beginning, it's very simple. You know, and it lays it out for you. It explains what you can do. And
I like that.
With these special abilities, you can only use them once per day. After you use them once per day, you got to do a long rest. So very similar to that Dungeons and Dragons vibe. You know.
So like that long rest, is that like, so there's a day-night cycle in the game essentially, right? or is it
Not
something
no
different?
no no no.
No.
It's very different. And what happens is when you do this long rest, this quote unquote long rest, what happens is you go to like your camp hideout. So you click on the fact that you want to go to a long rest. It takes you to a whole different area, like your campsite. And the coolest part about the whole campsite experience is that it feels very personable, because when you go throughout this game, you meet characters, and these characters become a part of your group, very similar to like the Mass Effect franchise, or
I love Mass Effect.
yeah, or the Dragon Age series.
That was my next question. So I've played Dragon Age 1. Same kind of thing happened with that game. I thought the game was magnificent. It was wonderful. And at the time when I was playing it, I wasn't really like into that kind of gameplay for some reason. I was like, I was like early 20s. I was doing like Call of Duty and stuff like that. It was like a Twitch shooter. And the idea of like maybe like revisiting those games has kind of like dawned upon me, which is kind of like why we decided to do this video. So how similar is it to a game like like those games like Dragon Age or Mass Effect, or I'm trying to think even something similar. I guess maybe Knights of the Old Republic. How similar is it to those games?
So I never really played the Dragon Age games, but I did play.
You gotta check them out.
Okay, absolutely. But I played the Mass Effect series, and I'm a huge fan of practically any Star Wars game. So the thing is with the Star Wars games and the Mass Effect games, in comparison to this, the Star Wars game, it's very similar. You have your strength stat, you have your perception stat, your dexterity, and so on and so forth. And one of the coolest parts about this game is that, like I said, there's a very big D&D feel to it. So there are times in the game where you have to quote unquote roll a d20, a d20 dice. And the best part,
cool.
and the best part is that when you're rolling for like a persuasion or an intelligence or something like that, it adds your modifiers. So if you have like a +3 in intelligence and you roll a dice, it adds on those modifiers. So I
actually like that a lot. That's super cool, because I definitely have played a lot of these types of games, and I think it just kind of always bugged me that I never really saw the rolls. I know it's dumb, but I'm a visual person, so I like to see like the dice. I have seen some of the screenshots and videos of like the actual dice, and you actually have to roll it. I think that's really nice, and it is immersion in a way of like, we can't all get together right now to play D&D maybe live necessarily,
right?
Person to person. So being able to virtually roll a dice, I think, is super cool. I mean, I'm sure you play plenty of campaigns, online and stuff still. Do you have like a virtual dice that you roll like when you play those games? Because I think that would be a super cool addition just in general. So having it in the game, I think, is awesome.
Yeah. So that's like that's one of the things that really kind of takes away, well, not necessarily takes away, but it really makes this game shine. When you do have to roll the dice. What's that?
The little details, right?
Yeah, exactly. Small little minute details that are actually big. That are big in games like this. And so, when you have to roll that dice, and another thing too is when you roll dice, and this adds into the customization, being a specific class or a specific race, you add modifiers to that. So like there's a part in the very beginning of the game where if you're a Githyanki, without spoiling it, there's a part where you have to interact with something that is within the Mind Flayer ship, and if you're a Githyanki, you automatically pass. Right. Doesn't even matter. You don't even have to roll it. But
and that's a new avenue to the story that you may not have gone with another character.
Exactly.
I like that.
So,
was cool.
Now one of the other things that I want to talk about are the quests and the combat.
Okay.
The quests feel very natural. When you're going around and when you're interacting with people, or even if you're reading stuff from a book, you can have a quest that can pop up. And so
I love that.
It's not one of those things where the quests feel very forced, where you like walk up and you're like, oh, I need you to go get me 6 bushels of weeds, blah 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 blah. It's very natural.
It's like an organic way to getting quests.
Exactly.
I think, do you ever play The Witcher 3? Or
the
Witcher series?
Yep.
So is it kind of like in that way? Sometimes you'll stumble upon a class.
Yep.
Obviously, you get quest givers in that game too, but I think for the most part, you just discovering, like, hey, there's some footprints. Where does this lead?
Yeah.
And then it leads to a quest. Like, I think also Skyrim did the very similar thing. And I think that's, going forward, I think that's what developers need to kind of take into consideration, that if you're making an MMO or a live service type game, maybe quest givers, maybe that type of format is best for your game. But if you're doing just a straight single player experience and you want immersion to be the number one, I think this is the way to go. I think this is the future. I think it's I'm gonna go look around. Oh, well, there's a guy there. He looks like he needs something. I'll talk to him. But what's this? A library? Oh, there's a book hanging out here. What's this book? Oh, that's so cool. I just found like a treasure map or something in here. Like,
exactly.
That is incredibly immersive, and I love it when games do that. So that's a big one for me already. Like, that's super cool. I love that. Yeah.
So now, like, one of the other things that I want to talk about actually before we get into the combat, because the combat is it's huge. It's a huge part of the game.
I got questions about the combat too, but
okay,
hopefully you'll answer a lot of them.
Yeah. One of the other things that I want to talk about briefly is stealth in this game. I know that in the Skyrim games and all that stuff, and in the Oblivion games and Elder Scrolls in general, there's a lot of emphasis within the stealth aspect, and the stealth aspect that is in Baldur's Gate 3, they nailed it. They nailed it to a T, because you can go around, you can stealth. Every so often you have to roll for stealth checks, and if you are like that rogue, that very shady person, there's a lot enveloped within the stealth, and so I think that's something to kind of talk about, because like when you're going around and you want to play that, like, very sneaky character that goes around and like pickpockets people to find out information or whatever, it's there. And I think that's really cool. That's one of the things that I think that Baldur's Gate really emphasized on, and so I think that's really cool. Another thing that I want to talk about too is, because within the game there's so much there, you can miss a lot of stuff. I mean, it's because it's so big. There's a lot of stuff that you can miss, and when you're playing it's pretty cool, because they added a feature within the game. All you have to do is when you go into like a room or something like that and you don't feel that you've gotten everything, you just press Alt and it'll pop up and it'll show you, okay, you missed this, or you missed this, or they're
like a little checklist kind of thing.
Not necessarily a checklist, but like, let's say that there's a potion that you forgot or that you missed when you're checking out this room. You can press Alt and it'll show you where that potion is. So you're not missing the big stuff.
That's kind of like for like a new player. I'm assuming that's really good for a new player. But for an experienced player, like, would that deter from the experience, or does it help? How do you
No,
feel?
I feel that it's kind of one of those things that's just there. You know, for an experienced player, if you want, you can turn it off. You know, if you're a brand new beginner, you have that option to use it. So I
like
really
that.
liked that they did this. I think that it's nice because for me, and also maybe for you too, when I play games like this, I want to get everything. I want to make sure that every quest that I do, I've done. You know, and so when you add a feature like this into the game, it makes a huge difference.
Okay.
So
I can see that being a little bit problematic just from the idea that, like, you know, I kind of like the idea of, like, if I miss some things, oh, it's because I wasn't diligent enough. You know, I wasn't, you know, it encourages multiple playthroughs. And my next question I was going to ask really quick, can you backtrack in this game? So, like, if you're in a specific area and let's say you missed a quest from a book, for example, can you go back to that area later on?
as of right now, as long and it's also one of those games where the outcomes of what you do affect the people around you.
Okay.
So as long as the outcome doesn't affect the people in a negative way to where they're gone, yes, you can still revisit it.
I see what you're saying. Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. Cool. So now one of the last things that I kind of want to talk about is the combat in this game. The combat is, to me, one of the main things that make this game shine. And one of the things right off the bat is that it's turn-based. It makes you feel like you're actually playing a Dungeons and Dragons campaign. So right off the bat, there's a roll, and whoever rolls the highest, from there on out, within that combat sequence, that's going to be the outcome. So if you roll a 20, you're the first one on the list. If you roll a nat 1, you're the last one on the list to fight. So, you know, that's really cool. It's kind of also fast. So when this game was kind of in developed and when they had said it was going to be turn-based, my first thought was, oh crap, combat's going to take forever. You know, it's going to be one of those things where, you know, there's 5 people involved within the combat and it's going to take me 10-15 minutes to do a combat sequence. It's not. And that's one of the things that I really, really like about is when they do the combat and all that stuff, it's fast, it's snappy. You know, if you're moving, the movement seems very fluid. It doesn't seem rushed, but it's quick to a certain extent to where it makes you feel like, okay, the combat's going to go fairly quickly, even if there's like 20 people that are involved within this combat cycle. So I think that there's, and this is kind of one of the things that I want to talk about next, is there's a lot of options within combat. You can use specific spells. If you're a fighter, you can use like a second wind to where you can do 2 actions. So you have your actions and your sub actions. Your main actions are, you know, like attacking or using a spell or using something to heal, or using a spell to heal. And then your secondary actions are like moving, you know, hunkering down so you have like a better AC, a better armor class. So, you know, if someone attacks you, you have a more survival chance of them missing.
Gotcha.
So
something really quickly. I did see some of the gameplay for the combat, and you're right. It does seem like snappy. Like I don't know according to the other games or anything else similar to this genre, but it does seem pretty like boom, boom, boom. It has a rhythm, it has a cadence to it, and I did like that. I like that, you know, you can also take your time with the game. It seemed like you could take your time with the rolls and kind of figure out there was no timer, so you could make the combat as fast as you like, and essentially.
Yeah.
And I did like that, you know, for me, essentially, I don't know if you played this game, it kind of looked like XCOM.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean,
I love those games.
To a certain extent. To obviously, like, if you're outside of combat, it's not turn-based. You know, in XCOM, there's always that like turn-based when you land and when you're moving your troops. That's the nice part about this game is when you're walking around with your exactly. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if XCOM were to do another game, I almost expect now to do, you know, instead of like, because it is like a hub world, you know, when you start off the, like when you're playing XCOM, it has like your hub, right, where you do your base of operations, and then you choose missions, and then your missions are the combat. So I would almost like it at this point, where if they were to do another one, it would be you walk to the next mission,
right,
like in Baulders Gate. So I think Baulders Gate's got it on that. But it definitely gave me the vibe of like how Baldur's Gate, or how, excuse me, XCOM does combat. It seems very similar to that, and I like that. That was cool. I was like, well, this makes sense. Like, if you're not a fan of like sci-fi or, you know, that futuristic approach to, you know, storytelling, this may be right up your alley. But you like the combat of XCOM, this may be right up your alley.
Yeah. So, to kind of finish, what this game is about. There's a lot of potential here with what we've been given and what we're about to receive. They've said, Larian Studios has said that the full game is going to be complete within the next year. So,
okay.
What you're doing is you're paying $60 for a game that is in early access, but when stuff comes out, you're not going to have to pay for it.
Right, because you've already paid up front.
Exactly. So that's kind of one of the main things that I want to address. Another thing that I want to address too is that the multiplayer in this game, within Baldur's Gate, as of right now, is a little rough.
Okay. That's good to know.
If you're planning on playing with your friends and going through the storyline campaign and all that stuff, that's fine. But you guys are going to have to figure out within a certain time where you and all of your friends can be on at the same exact time to play this game. If you and two other of your friends are on, but then little Jimmy says that he can't get on, don't play the game. Because what that's going to do is, for little Jimmy that's not on right now, it's going to give him a major disadvantage with what you guys are going to complete in the future. So, if it's you and one other friend, you and two other friends, figure out a time where you guys can hop on and play, so you don't run into those situations.
So what you're saying is basically there's no like offline kind of progression? Is that kind of what you're saying? Like, you kind of, like, if you want to progress together with your friends, you got to do it together at
exactly
the same time,
yep
live currently. Yep. Okay. I guess for multiplayer, do you take your single player character and then throw that into multiplayer, or is it a whole separate character?
No, it's a whole separate character.
I see.
It's a whole separate character. So
I see.
Yeah, okay. So what you have to do is, when you go within the menu, you have to click on the fact that you are playing multiplayer. And so we've had issues where my friends and I all start up a campaign. We'll end up, playing together. And then my buddy and I, we decide we're going to hop on, kind of move further. But my third buddy, he hops on, and now his character is gone. He has to play as one of the fill-ins, one of the characters that you get introduced to within the story.
So there is an option for your friend to at least join in with whatever progression you are at, but they just won't have the progression. I can see that being a little problematic for the game.
Yeah.
I hope they figure out a better system for it. I mean, obviously the game is still in early access. They're
Yeah.
probably still trying to work out the kinks for that. I hope that they figure out something. It is a single player game, so I mean, the idea of like multiplayer progression doesn't seem like, oh, like you can't, illegally, create this massive character or in like a setting or something. It's it's purely just a multiplayer game where it's not competitive,
Right.
not like a Call of Duty or something. So I'm sure they can figure out something to where even you could interject your character, and maybe just kind of like, let's say your character is super powerful and you're trying to help your friends get through the game.
Right.
Maybe it's like a scaling thing. Maybe they scale your character back down a few levels to match closer to wherever, like the starting area, for example.
Yeah.
They may do something. I don't know if that would even work, but
yeah. Well, that's kind of all I have for the Baldur's Gate, this Baldur's Gate video. But I have one final question for you.
Okay.
This game is $60.
Okay.
Would you be willing to invest the $60 within this game?
I like what I hear so far, honestly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I like
So
what I hear.
do you have any questions for me that you would, kind of like me to elaborate more on?
Yeah. So let's do microtransactions. What's the situation there?
No microtransactions.
Whatsoever? No item shop, nothing? That's good. That's really big.
Yep.
I know a lot of people always ask about that for these games these days.
Yeah.
It's just crazy that we have to ask that.
I know.
Good that they're doing that.
Yeah.
As it stands, like, do you feel confident in the game that it will deliver, like once it's a retail release?
Absolutely. And to kind of give the quick version of why I do think so, with what we've gotten so far, the fact that it is only it's barely even done.
Mm-hmm.
The stuff that we're gonna get in the days to come, in the months to come, within this next year, totally, it's gonna be 100% worth the money. It's kind of cool because it's a little bit like an episodic game. It's
tell me what that means, actually.
So an episodic game is very similar to your Telltale games. So very similar to The Walking Dead, when Telltale came out with the Walking Dead games, and also very similar to the Batman, series that Telltale was doing. So an episodic game means that there's like a part 1 that comes out, and then somewhere down the line, part 2 comes out, part 3 comes out, part 4 comes out, and so on and so forth. So that's what I think we're seeing here with this game. It's gonna be kind of an episodic game, and you could play it as you go, which is really cool, because what you can do is you can kind of figure out like what you like and the character that you like and the different dialogues that you're gonna see within all the characters. You can kind of see all that stuff, and then when part 2 comes out, you can go through it again and kind of see like what class is at an advantage with part 2, so to speak. So
I was gonna ask, I am wary of early access games. I've been burned before.
Yeah.
I think one game that comes to mind is was it Sessions or Skater XL? One of those games. It was an early access game, and I can't remember which one, but it just was like, I think it was like $40, and I think it's probably better now, but when it came out as an early access game, it was just like, ooh, just wait, this game is not ready yet. It's not ready. What's the overall opinion of the community right now about like, oh, for $60, I'm getting a great game? Like, what is the opinion right now of the community?
So the overall opinion, I mean, even if you go on and look at Steam right now, the overall opinion is that it's overwhelmingly positive.
Good. That's good.
There are some graphics issues, they should have kind of smoothed those out, but like I said, the thing is you're paying $60 for a game that's maybe 1/8 done.
Mhm.
So
Some people have a really big issue with that. Not myself personally, but I know a lot of people that would be like, if I'm paying $60, I want to have a game that's either
complete,
or almost complete. And I see that argument, and it's fair. But I think with the track record of just Baldur's Gate in general, and it seems like Larian knows what they're doing with the D&D franchise, especially with like Divinity 1 and 2. I think this is probably a safe bet, but it is a bet, and that's the only thing that's a concern. But from what you're telling me so far, it looks like it's worth it. It looks like it's really a really good purchase to go for.
Yeah.
How does this run on? I have two more questions. Sorry.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Do you think this is a taxing game for like a PC? Like how like what kind of specs do you think would be? Like, do you need a monster PC to run this, or just like you could be fine with whatever you got?
So, what I tell people in the PC world is if you have just an overall better PC, the difference within the lower end specs and the higher end specs are going to be night and day, regardless of what you have. But even with the specs on the lower settings, it still is a pretty solid game. It even on the high specs, it's incredibly gorgeous. The textures and all that stuff for the game, beautiful.
Nice.
Even on the lower settings, it's still pretty solid.
Okay.
But there are those like cast shadows that you notice on the higher settings. So
I can imagine a lot of people that played the first two games, they may be the ones that really want to buy this game, and if they're PC's a potato, they may not want to get it because obviously the game is way more advanced than 20 years ago. But I wondered if like the company like Larian would look at it and go, we still got to be able to get those fans in. Let's make this engine as least taxing as possible, so that anyone that has a computer in the last maybe 20 years could potentially play it.
Right.
So it's nice to see, because it sounds like that's what they did. It sounds like from what you're telling me, like on the lowest settings, it can look a little bit like meh, but at least it's playable.
Yeah.
So that's cool. I like that they did that. Couple more questions.
Yeah.
Do we have a official release date for the game, like as retail, and do we have confirmed systems that it's coming out for?
So as of right now, Baldur's Gate is only speculated for PC.
Okay.
And with the official release date of the game for quote unquote retail, they haven't come out with that. The game dropped on the 6th of October. Okay. And so I think that is gonna be their official release date.
Okay.
Even though it's in early access,
I can see that. Yeah.
I think what their plan is that they released it. It's in early access just because the full game isn't done, but there's more stuff to come.
Mm-hmm. Cool. All right, man. Anything else you want to add?
No, I mean, you know what the thing is for me, like I said in our past videos, I just built a brand new computer. And this was one of the games why I built my brand new computer. And with the amount of detail that's in this game, if you're kind of a similar gamer to me, where like the Mass Effect series was an incredible series for me, the Elder Scrolls series was also really big for me too, and even the Fallout series. To me, this game seems like it's gonna compete with me personally and move up, because for me as a gamer, I always go back to like those old reliable games still to this day, you know.
Nice. Yeah.
So it's exactly and why it's really cool to me that they're kind of doing this game as an episodic game is it can be one of those things where, like, okay, you know what, I'm currently playing, you know, Warcraft 3 or, you know, Ark or something like that, and then I realize, oh, you know what, Baldur's Gate just came out with Act 2. All right, well, let's try that out, you know. So it's one of those things where, like, when you hit that hiatus of like, okay, now what do I want to play? Oh, Baldur's Gate, you know. So that's kind of all I have to say. But I mean, yeah. What do you think? Do you think that from what you heard today, this is a game that you might be willing to pay $60 for?
Yeah, I definitely think this is something I want to check out. I kind of get that itch again, like I said, for Dragon Age and
right.
those old school games. So I've never really been a D&D person. You know, just never had like that kind of thing growing up. I guess I've played the games, but I feel like the games never really did justice to the actual source material. This seems like it's doing quite a bit of justice to it. So yeah, pretty exciting. I want to check it out.
Sweet. Awesome, man. Cool.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Alrighty, guys. Well, there you have it. That was my buddy Rob and I, and me trying to convince him on buying Baldur's Gate 3. And the real question here was, do I think that Baldur's Gate 3 is worth the $60? I believe so, but you know, everybody has a different opinion. So let me know what you guys think. If you guys have gotten the game and you guys think it, or vice versa, or if I convinced you that Baldur's Gate 3 is worth the $60. So like I said, let me know in the comments below. One of the things that I do want to let you guys know is that I am going to be having my own YouTube channel, so you guys will probably end up seeing this video exclusively on the Goalie Dude YouTube channel. So yeah, my buddy Rob and I, we are still going to be doing collaborations, and I'm also probably going to be doing some collaborations with my buddy Neo Unstoppable. So if you come across this video and you don't know about those two, definitely go check them out. Maybe hit that subscribe button, you know. But another thing that I want to let you guys know too is that I am going to be streaming on Facebook and on Twitch. I try to do it at least 2 times a week, but sometimes life happens. So my Facebook name is Goalie Dude and my Twitch name is Goalie Dude 99. So come by. You know, if there's a game that you're playing and you know you need an extra person or something like that, or you know you just want to play a game with friends, let me know. If I have the game, I'll come swing by and you know say hi and play a few rounds. You know, so yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. You know, I am going to try to put out weekly content. Depending on what my schedule's like, I might come out with 2 videos a week. So, yeah, thank you guys for coming by and checking out the video, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.